What to make of Trump's DeFi platform. Wrapped Bitcoin comes to Coinbase. And a preview of Solana Breakpoint 2024. We cover all this right now in the Collective Shift weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes. Nick, how are you this week?
Yeah, I'm really good. A lot to talk about, especially with Trump land. I did not have Trump launching a DeFi platform on my 2024 look ahead at all. So maybe we can dive into a bit of what it is and I guess how it really matters for the end user and whether it's something to be worried about or not. But maybe you can kick us off with a nice market update.
Yeah, as I get my screen up here, Nick, the market has rallied over the past 7 days, which is nice to see after some down weeks. So 6% higher for Bitcoin at time recording. ETH is down slightly, which is notable. And Solana up slightly, just 1%. So underperforming Bitcoin if you just viewed the past 7 days. So it's really a similar story of this whole year, really, where Bitcoin is just taking charge. And all other altcoins are reliant on Bitcoin to break above all-time highs, really, when you're talking about the bigger picture. But what really caused this rebound, there was nothing too, I suppose, significant, really, from my perspective. We saw more data come out in the US economy that probably, increased the odds that they would cut, which was almost a certainty, but I think it made it more of a certainty that the Federal Reserve will cut for the first time in over 4 years, it will be this week now. So whether that's 25 basis points or 50 basis points remains to be seen. Worth noting there that we didn't have a Federal Reserve announcement or meeting in August, and they also will skip October. So some people saying, well, will 50 basis points be enough? Will that be maybe necessary? It sort of then, takes care of October's rate cut. People are sort of putting that argument out there. For me, I think it'll be looked back on as much of a muchness really in years to come. The bottom line is rate cuts are coming, and I think overall that is sort of a big reason why we saw a rebound in crypto. But otherwise, not too much to report on there, really. Just, that inflation data, as I said, came in really in line with expectations. So it's the lowest reading in the US inflation CPI, that is, in around 4 years or so. So very notable there.
Perfect. Maybe we can get into a quick election update then, considering that the US election is such a pivotal part of the crypto market now, really. I did see there was no crypto mention. So if you were in Polymarket and you bet it on whether it was going to get a mention or not, hopefully you did well out of that. But anyone who voted yes, crypto would get a mention, were big losers, absolute crickets there on that front. General consensus was probably that Harris won it, really. I think a lot of the sound bites were really going around Trump and some of the crazy things he might have been saying in the debate. I just see, looking at kind of the betting odds and the averages, Harris is now comfortably back above Trump. Polymarket is probably the only website or polling or prediction market that has got them pretty level. The rest of them are comfortably Harris by a few figures there. So they've kind of been flipping and flopping, and now Harris back up, and it's probably going to be a big next, I think, 50, 60 days, however it is, until early November in the election. So we're only expecting this to get a lot more traction, and we'll have to see a lot and how it comes out, really, with Trump and his next thing here, Matt, his World Liberty financial launch, which is probably happening this week.
Yeah, for sure. We'll know a lot more information between now and by the time this podcast goes out. But for the meantime, we do have some scant details on what the project this is. World Liberty Financial is the name, and we know that it's the white paper that was leaked to CoinDesk or picked up by CoinDesk. Reportedly, sort of has them building as either a fork of the Aave protocol or one of DeFi's biggest projects, or actually building on top of Aave. So those details will probably come out in the coming days, and assuming it's also on Ethereum mainnet, which the white paper sort of pointed out. I think the biggest there's a long list of questions that
a lot to unpack.
I think one of the biggest questions we can discuss now is whether or not there'll be a token. I suppose the answer is also that we'll find out in a couple of days. What's probably your biggest, what's your biggest talking point, Nick, from this news story?
I was just shocked to really see them step so far into the crypto space, because they were already pretty aligned with the industry, especially compared to what the Democrats are doing. But then to go that one step further and actually release a DeFi platform, as I said at the start of this podcast, never would have thought that would have been happening this year. Especially, I guess, given the risks. It seems there's a lot more risks here and potential downside than there is any upside, really, because then you get the accusations that they're just enriching themselves. There was actually some rumors about the white paper that there was going to be a 70% allocation if there was a token, to insiders, which I've never seen a 70% allocation before in this space. That's completely out of whack, and I've never seen something like that before. And then I guess it comes back to whether they would actually have a token sale, considering the current state of crypto altcoins in the US is extremely hostile. Let alone the potential president launching a token and a DeFi platform. So I just find it hard to even see how something like this will even get going. And if it does get going, you would have to think that it's not even offered to US. So it's really difficult to see where this fits in, and just seems a lot more risks and downside than any potential upside here. So one of them I'm actually kind of worried for, because it's just a huge target now on the back, especially then if they do a token launch, and especially one if it has a high allocation to insiders. It just paints a really bad picture, and let's hope for their sake that they actually have second thoughts about it, and maybe the reception they might get once it's announced makes them rethink a few things here, Matt. I'm not sure if you have any other sentiments as well.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. I think in terms of the upside versus downside, a lot more weighted towards the latter there. And I really share much the same opinion as you. And look, that may change once we find out more information in the next 48, 72 hours. But for now, it seems like a cash grab with the little information that we do have, and potentially quite damaging to the space overall. So we'll see what happens, and be covering it for sure in next week's podcast. But in the meantime, we did have another development. We've been covering, the Bitcoin, the DeFi or certain applications coming to the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's gradually decentralizing in terms of having these DeFi, even gaming is technically on the Bitcoin ecosystem these days, and other use cases that are being less and less centralized over time. So I'm hesitant to call it Bitcoin DeFi, but that's what we've all gone with. Bitcoin DeFi, let's just keep going with it, is really potentially spurring, I guess, a new chapter of growth. What have we got here, Nick?
So Coinbase, one of the biggest exchanges in the world, they've launched their wrapped Bitcoin product, which is CBBTC. So this is an Ethereum token, and it just tokenizes Bitcoin and puts it onto the Base and Ethereum ecosystems. It's a really big deal, because currently the market leader is BitGo's wrapped Bitcoin, which is the WBTC, and they control about a 96% market share of all wrapped Bitcoin products. So it's a huge deal, considering Coinbase has such a big name, and we've seen how strong adoption has been in moving cryptocurrency to their Base ecosystem, which has seen extraordinary success. So kind of the first step of making Bitcoin perhaps more usable with a big, coup like Coinbase, who has a lot of distribution, and I think 100+ million, registered accounts on the exchange. I saw they actually hit 100 million within the first week, with about, 1,600 CBBTC minted. So huge initial interest, and we'll have to see whether this is sustained into the long term, and whether this, as we talked about in previous podcasts, where Bitcoin DeFi, just getting more utility out of Bitcoin that's just sitting idle into different ecosystems. So that's one I'm really looking forward to, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. We'll watch that growth trajectory hopefully continue to increase in the months ahead. This week we also had news out of the US in Washington. So September is, a packed calendar relative to other months, really, for crypto this month in terms of Congress and their hearings. I think there's 3, potentially 4 hearings related to crypto. And we actually had the very first one targeted at a certain sector, and that is decentralized finance, or DeFi. So that happened within the past week, and it was really representatives from different organizations, either in the US or partially in the US, so Polygon Labs, and also some advocacy bodies as well, such as Coin Center and DeFi Education Fund. There were representatives from those entities sort of going ahead and I guess being there to answer questions from this particular subcommittee in US Congress. So really, it was just more of a learning exercise and also an opportunity for politicians to either voice their support for the space or for politicians to basically just criticize the DeFi sector, which typically is how these sort of hearings go down. Whether or not as much learning or progress gets done in them, I think they're more so, from my observation, it's more so the relationships that go on behind closed doors and after these hearings, but they're nonetheless very important. And what was pleasing to see, at least, was that there are, as I said, 2 or 3 more this month. So I think by the time September's over, Nick, we'll have a lot more to say on the state of, I guess, progress or lack thereof in the US in relation to, well, not only DeFi, which is one of the biggest use cases of blockchain technology today, and quite a big sector in terms of the markets as well. But also just the crypto space in general, which has been in a holding pattern for so many years, as we've covered ad nauseum on this podcast.
Yeah, especially considering the state of DeFi tokens. We all know that DeFi suffers from this kind of funny in-between where they kind of can't actually give tokens too much value, or else you may be entering a lot of legal death spiral, really. So it's this kind of funny business where you're actually incentivized not to give it value, which is kind of the opposite of how we should actually be protecting, I guess, users of these things and encouraging value to flow into them rather than just keeping them as so-called governance tokens. Another big one there is Uniswap Labs, who potentially could then be formally sued. They got issued a Wells notice, I think, back in May. So it's been a few months now, and I'm probably anticipating some action on that front, which is going to be the big defining case for DeFi in the US.
Yeah, certainly. We'll be expecting that surely by the end of the year if it's ever going to happen. But over to another jurisdiction, area of the world now. We'll head over to Japan because, week after week lately they've been just coming in with more adoption stories related to crypto, from everything from Bitcoin over to different supply chain sort of stuff, and now even Ethereum L2s as we've covered recently. Where do we go with this one, Nick?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Japan really step in. They've even got things that I noticed that we haven't talked about, such as changing the tax rate. So I think it was originally 50% on cryptocurrency, and now they're pulling it back, showing that they've got a lot more, I guess, faith in the industry, that they're trying to bring it in line with a lot of other, I think, financial assets, which is a huge sign, especially if you're paying 50% tax on your crypto. There's not a lot of incentive to really get involved. The big one here was Japan's largest electricity company, Tokyo Electric Power. They started using excess renewable energy to mine Bitcoin. So last year, this was a huge narrative, trying to overcome the environmental, I guess, FUD that gets levied against Bitcoin, that it uses too much energy. But there's a real big trend in actually trying to have Bitcoin be part of, I guess, that energy mix, and try to use more renewable energies and rehypothecate energy. So one narrative that I think is really going to gain some traction, especially into the next couple of years, as Bitcoin really turns more renewable and tries to overcome these environmental concerns that have really plagued it since day one. As you said, this builds off what we talked about last week with, I think, 3 financial institutions that they are having an upcoming trial of a cross-border stablecoin platform. And then builds on Sony building a Ethereum L2, and talks that it's going to have its own exchange, talks that there's going to be Sony's own stablecoin that may be built on the network. There's no formal announcements that come out yet, although there's a few maybe misinformation circulating, and no one's really quite sure where we're at with that. But the high level here is Japan really stepping into crypto.
Yeah, it's really great to see that for so long they've been a non-factor, which is a bit of a disappointment, really, given they're a top 5 economy in the world, potentially even ranked 3rd or 4th by GDP last time I checked. And just ever since the Mt. Gox thing, my understanding is they've been quite tame or reserved, muted, just not really wanting to lean in too much, which is sort of fair enough given a lot of people's don't have much time for crypto, so politicians probably have just a very brief understanding that, hey, that's a Mt. Gox thing, let's not touch it. So it's good to see them coming back and even innovating in certain areas or pushing the standard, really, in terms of this Bitcoin mining initiative, which, really caught my eye, and I think could be one of the highlights of the year, really. Like, just reading out this paragraph, as Bitcoin Magazine explains here, as you can see on your screen, the initiative helps reduce wasted green energy from solar and wind farms that are forced to curtail production to avoid overloading Japan's grid. So this energy is now being diverted to generate Bitcoin, which is quite amazing. And all the chances here for excess energy that would otherwise be wasted, we've seen talked about for a number of years, and great to see this moving forward.
Perhaps even heading to another maybe underappreciated or big name that is really experimenting with crypto. Swift here, Matt. I think you have been keeping on top of this, especially in relation to Chainlink. But they're one of the biggest, and widely used financial networks that are continuing to test Ethereum, Chainlink, and Avalanche. Where are they at with these sort of tests? I saw it was gaining a bit of traction online this month.
Yeah, we saw a tweet here from the Swift community. So just promoting or reminding people that they are tinkering and working with blockchain technology. I remember researching Chainlink on an ongoing basis, but it was only I think last year where I actually found out that they've had a working relationship with Chainlink, and Swift have had a working relationship since 2017. Which it really blew me away when we talk about this institutional adoption of crypto. Many times it's happening in the background, but it's more so from a mutual, just connecting the dots or trying to figure out where both parties can provide value. And there's a lot of learning that goes on, which in bigger organizations can take many years. And now Swift here is piloting blockchain technology, as they've been doing for many years, as I said. In terms of their specific use case of Chainlink, I believe it's to do with their Swift is testing the CCIP, so Chainlink Cross-Chain Interoperability Protocol, which really is just a way to use blockchains. You don't have to choose one blockchain and be pressured into selecting the right blockchain if you're a company wanting to go into the space. There's other benefits too, but that's really one of the big ones. So Avalanche is sort of another blockchain as part of that sort of pilot that's involved, as well as some other sort of permissioned or private blockchains, which the founder, Sergey, of Chainlink, that is, has long sort of had this vision of Chainlink being the connector of private, even banking blockchains in the future, and being that sort of verification point to then pass on that, those sort of proofs onto public blockchains, which is an exciting area. So I dare say we'll know a lot more about this in the end of October when Chainlink has their Smart Con. So Chainlink's main annual conference is coming up end of October. I did have a look on their website, and Swift, a representative of Swift is speaking there, which is pretty, I believe every Smart Con, I would dare say, has had a representative from Swift talking on stage. So great to see that, and we'll see what comes of these pilot tests.
Yeah, super excited to see what's to come in the next month for Chainlink. Perhaps even staying on our altcoin topic now, I feel like the biggest probably update here is Solana land. That was probably a key theme that we talked about earlier in the year, and it's really only becoming more widely, I guess, adopted and even just more widely a consensus view of Solana's importance in the ecosystem. I've got a couple things here before we dive into Breakpoint though, which is happening on the 20th to 21st of September, but I actually saw that there was a publicly traded crypto company that's I think on one of the Canadian stock exchanges, which used to be called Cyberpunk Holdings. So Cyberpunk Holdings have rebranded to be known as Sol Strategies. So I was really taken aback by this one, really didn't anticipate this. They've actually held 0 Sol, I think, as per their reporting in late March. This increased to 63,000 Sol July 16, and then in August, in some of their latest reportings, they declared about 86,000 Sol, which is equivalent to about 12 million USD. So not credible, huge numbers by any means, but it's more so the signal that we're seeing some publicly traded companies, some people in the space start to rebrand and embrace Solana and actually just become Solana focused or Solana maxis. So, small little one that you might have missed, but, exciting news heading into Breakpoint here.
Yeah, for sure. I think a good signal to watch, and hopefully they keep accumulating as well. And Breakpoint, we've got a lot to, preview, or we can preview for Breakpoint happening on, as we got up on the screen here, September 20th to 21st. I think it's highly anticipated that almost every major Solana-based project will have some sort of announcement or some sort of product update or something like that. I would go as far as to say the vast majority of, call it the top dozen projects on Solana by market cap. I dare say the vast majority of them will have something big to announce. Whether we know what that is or we have hints of it, I think most people would be clued in by now what that probably is, but there may be a few surprises sprinkled in there as well.
Yeah, there's a few names like Jupiter. They've got, like, I think they're going to launch their mobile app and they're very into the testing phase of that. Even Jito, wondering if they've got anything to announce. We saw the cloud token Sanctum. They were partnering with some exchanges, so maybe they might have a few more to announce there. Even things that potentially on Ethereum land, will Aave announce a Solana product? That is probably a small shot to happen. PayPal, will they signal further integration into the Solana ecosystem? Big protocol like Drift, they might announce a lot, considering that they've had some strong VC support with picking up liquid tokens on the market. And then just looking back from Solana as a whole, obviously Fidancer is the one everyone's looking forward to, and hopefully seeing some sort of date being set for the first phase of the rollout to really upgrade and provide a new client to the Solana ecosystem to make it more robust. Even Solana Mobile too, where we're going to hear a possible date for that. So a lot happening in Solana actually. So hopefully we can actually get, I think, someone who's actually working in our building and Upside, who are attending the conference. Maybe we can get one of them on the pod to give us a boots on the ground, bit of a TLDR.
Yeah, it's a good idea because guaranteed to be a lot of news coming out of there, as we've said, and it's worth reiterating. I've lost count of how many times we've said this, Nick, but don't get your hopes up for the Fidancer release. There'll be a lot of people saying that there'll be an announcement about Fidancer. Well, it technically is correct, but I think I've seen a lot of media outlets and that making it seem like Fidancer is going to come out at Singapore, this weekend. But as we've said many times, it's really just the early version called Frankendancer. So don't get your hopes up too much, but we'll see some progress and hopefully a timeline, as tough as it is to give out timelines. It'll be nice to see some progress there. In terms of, VCs picking up, liquid, Solana, tokens of Solana-based projects. We've seen this over the recent weeks. Metaplex, their token was purchased from someone who bought it from the FTX estate. So that's sort of connected to FTX's bankruptcy. And again, these VCs buying those tokens, like Parify Capital was one of them that acquired these Metaplex tokens. It's just reading into why they did that, I think, is important because, liquid tokens have been very out of favor in the market this year. So it's maybe something to lean into there and read up about. Similarly, Drift, we saw, I guess, unrelated to the FTX collapse, we saw Drift Protocol, their native token, also called Drift, was acquired by Multicoin. So they've been an early investor in Drift, the protocol, and they've continued to actually buy from secondary markets the Drift token, so adding to their positions. So which was, again, a really high signal, and they actually released accompanied that announcement with an actual analysis of the Drift protocol and what's coming up. So great to see some action there on secondary markets. And onto sort of a related project, or another project with a big September coming up, that's EigenLayer. So their stake drop, their second sort of season of airdrops really is coming out this month. So the claims for that start this week, and that will essentially, there will be a tail end of tokens that get released after this, but for all intents and purposes, I would say for most people, this is essentially the last chance you'll get to claim any meaningful amount of Eigen. I think they've maybe got 3% of their total supply related to airdrops still to do after this. So they had 15% of their supply for stake drops or airdrops in general. And now that this second one will be done very soon, that's the vast majority of that 15%. So really we can expect to see, hopefully some news to do with when this token will actually become transferable. It's been assumed that it will be the end of September for a while now, and there hasn't been an update sort of confirming or I guess saying otherwise. So we'll await to see whether that's going to be the case. But the assumption is that EigenLayer token will go live by the end of the month.
Perfect there, Matt. And perhaps even staying on Ethereum land, Ethereum Name Service was probably one of the bigger altcoin announcements this week. They integrated with PayPal and Venmo for crypto payments starting in the US. So, huge deal here with, big actor like PayPal further embracing crypto and stepping in and making another key partnership with Ethereum Name Service, who has been forming a lot of these partnerships. Previously, they worked with, I think, GoDaddy to implement their name service into their platform and enabling direct communication to their traditional domains. So huge amount of news for ENS. They're looking to actually move to a layer 2 as well. So that's one I'm expecting maybe some more details towards the end of the year and into 2025 as they start to actually make some tangible movements on getting away from Ethereum mainnet, although gas prices aren't too much of a problem these days.
Yeah, that's right. I do know these ENS ads or announcements, they always have Nick.eth in the promos, which is funny. I always think of you, but I think it's the co-founder.
Yeah, co-founder.
But it is quite, you'll never get that ENS domain, I think, Nick, ever.
We can pray.
Yeah, that's it. Just some quick ones here as well, just to finish off. Starknet proposing staking, so that's come through September 10th, the proposal there. And yeah, we're seeing that starting to get some, voting has actually closed on that as I look now. And yeah, stockholders will be voting for things related to the purpose of the token. I didn't really read into this too much, but if that's the case, it'll be following along with other staking, I guess, utility that's being or about to be added to Arbitrum by the looks of it. So yeah, we'll see what comes of this, and things still going along in Starknet.
Perfect. And then we've got, I think the final one here was Anime Chain from Azuki, was building on the Arbitrum. And I saw this one actually caused a lot of controversy with a lot of people maybe questioning whether anyone is actually asking for such a product. I think we'll know in the coming months and year of whether this is another case of building for a problem that doesn't really exist, which I think is all too common in the crypto space.
Yeah, that's it. It's tough announcing things at the moment as projects. A lot of things, just to be honest, are receiving more backlash. I think it's just the sentiment in the market. But hey, maybe it's warranted, and indeed, maybe it turns out this as well doesn't gain product market fit. So yeah, we'll see what comes of this Anime Chain.
What about things to look forward to, Matt? What's on your eye here? I see there's conferences and rate cuts that are really the topic of the week.
Yeah, so those are the two really. I think that'll be happening this week, and Token 2049 starting in Singapore. They're one of the biggest, I guess, industry conferences on the calendar. So we'll probably have some project announcements come out of there as well. And then rate cuts around the middle of this week, plus the Trump Twitter space as well coming up about that project we spoke about earlier. Anything on your eye, Nick?
Nothing you nailed there. The only other thing is that is probably less talked about FTX sentencing of Caroline Ellison. That's happening on September 24. Everyone sort of thought the FTX stuff is totally behind us, but there's little segments here with Caroline, who was a big player in Alameda and the FTX exchange. She's being sentenced on September 24. So I think how much jail, if any, she gets is going to really send a big signal of, I guess, how much she's been cooperating with agencies, and whether there's still some crypto VCs, crypto players in the space that potentially have some actions coming up, as it looks like Caroline is pretty actively working with authorities there against some of these legacy actors that may have been contributed to some of this fraud.
Okay, onto the overappreciated or underappreciated to close out this week. My one that I have for this week, I would say underappreciated, just because I didn't see much news about it. Happened late in the week, and that was just more details about EVE Online's new or upcoming blockchain-based game, which is EVE Frontier, and it's sort of a survival. So I'm not much of a gamer, but I have heard of EVE Online over the years a lot, and I know it is one of the sort of world's leading games, and those are just most popular. So they're using blockchain here, or they will be in the back end, and I assume not really mentioning it much given the sentiment among the gamers towards blockchain tech, and at the end of the day it shouldn't really be a focus. But I guess why I'm mentioning this is the white paper did come out, I think late last week, as well as a trailer. So yeah, we'll see more about it. It probably launch at the earliest sometime next year, but maybe even after that. So we'll see what comes of Eve Frontier.
Yeah, that's a good one, Matt. I was interested to see that they were choosing the OP stack to build on. So another big coup for the OP ecosystem. My underappreciated has to be actually, I'm not sure it's too underappreciated, so it was going the rounds, but it's really important, this stablecoin report from Castle Island Ventures. So it's looking into stablecoin usage in emerging markets. So I think they looked into 5 emerging countries from Nigeria to Turkey and a few in between. Really found some interesting stuff here. They found that people are using stablecoins more than just to fuel Bitcoin buying or crypto speculation, but they're actually actively buying or using stablecoins to move between currencies and to save in dollars. So this was a huge, hypothesis that we're anticipating a lot of people to use stablecoins to go into USD and out of their local currency. And this is really finding this is happening on the boots, on the ground for people to kind of get more democratized access to US dollars, because not everyone knows that it's as easy to get them as you may think. Another really key thing I saw was Binance Wallet was the most popular crypto wallet out there. So it goes to show how much of an influence Binance has over the ecosystem, with people choosing that over all other self-custody wallets out there. Also surprised to see Ethereum still remains about 50% most popular and used blockchain by a lot of these users. So although Tron is getting a lot of activity, Ethereum still well there in terms of the most respected and most widely used. So we'll include the report in the show notes. Just a massive one there, Matt, and glad to see we're finally seeing stablecoins get even more focus on what they really deserve.
Yeah, for sure. We will drop that link below, as you said, Nick, and you can go check it out for anyone listening or watching. But that is a wrap for this week. If you are looking for more insights from Collective Shift, head over to the following link I'm about to announce, and you can see every Friday, you can get straight to your inbox market insights and just any other news coming out of Collective Shift as well. So collectiveshift.io/newsletter is that link. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter.